got some big games in the Mountain West this week. Let's break it down.
Week 9 is coming up fast, and we're back on the Big Mountain, where we bring you a detailed focus on the Big Ten and the Mountain West.
Hey, it's great to see you again. It is Week 9. We have some huge games in the Mountain West. We talked about some of these in our picks episode, and we just want to break some of these down again. Get into a little more opinion, maybe conversation about these games. I'm JY. If you haven't seen us before, this is my good friend Steve. We do a lot of information on both the Big Ten. Steve's expertise comes into play there. Penn State. I am, I guess, the expert on the Mountain West. I just enjoy the Mountain West. And we also do a lot of stuff on the Washington State and Oregon State, kind of keeping our eye on what's happening there. So we're going to break down a couple of these games. Let's start with the Fresno State Bulldogs game versus UNLV Rebels. And, as I said in the pick episode, I see the winner of this game having a very clear path to the Mountain West Championship game. We've got UNLV here that has been the up-and-coming team, a little bit of the Cinderella-ish, although they really haven't had a very difficult schedule as of yet. But certainly getting a lot of people to pay attention to this team at 6-1. They are 3-0 in the conference, so they have wins over both Hawaii, Nevada, and Colorado State. I would say 3-0 is great, but those are probably the bottom 3 teams in the conference right now. Yeah. I don't want to take away their wins, but they have not had the challenging games as this Fresno State Bulldogs team is going to be for them. Yep. Fresno, on the other hand, is 2-1 in the conference. They have beaten Nevada and Utah State in a fairly close game, and Utah State can put up points this year. So, that's not an easy win for anybody in this conference. Their one loss obviously came to Wyoming several weeks ago in a fantastic game. So let's look at these teams here a little bit. When you look at the offenses, when you look at total yards right now for offenses, they're pretty close. 41 versus 50. I would say, hey, let's look at the opponents here. But Fresno also hasn't played a super strong schedule yet. Again, I don't want to take anything away from them. They played Purdue, but we see what the Purdue Boilermakers team has been doing this year. They struggled against an Eastern Washington team early on. They did kind of get back on track there for a while, but then they had that close loss to Wyoming in Laramie, which is a very difficult place to play. Keene did not play in their last game, but they are coming off their bye. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens here with the Fresno State Bulldogs. I specifically look at the pass defense for UNLV. They are ranked 123rd versus a pass offense in Fresno that, not the best in the country, so to speak, but a very solid passing offense. If I were to pick a side of the offense that I'd want to have stronger here against UNLV, certainly the passing side of the offense, and that's what the Bulldogs have is the passing side of the offense. So to me, that's where this game may lie, is that passing offense strength of the Bulldogs versus that passing defensive possibly weakness of the UNLV Rebels. What do you think about that, Steve?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. UNLV is that up-and-coming team. They've played nobody really in conference yet. Their one loss out of conference was to a really good Michigan team.
Right.
We don't know a lot about them other than they're fun, they're exciting. Whereas it's the opposite of Fresno. We know so much about them. They're the defending champion.
Yes.
They've played I think a tough schedule, even if they have not maybe played any offensive juggernauts yet.
True.
But a good solid schedule for the Mountain West teams. And they have that one loss to Wyoming, a great defense, but all of their goals are still in front of them. If they can win this game, they're still on track to be one of the 2 or 3 teams to get into that Mountain West Championship game. If Keene is able to come back, I think it's the perfect time for him to come back. He had a week off, and then one game off, and then the bye week.
Right.
And like you mentioned, the UNLV pass defense, that's not their strength. There should be some openings there for them. If he can come back, or who was their backup?
Fife.
Yeah. Fife has played well as well. So either one of them, I think they could have some opportunities against UNLV. This is UNLV's shot.
It is.
They're having a very good season for what the expectations were. great season so far. This is their chance to. They could take if they were to upset Fresno State, this would be their chance to take their place among the big boys in the conference. So they have a lot to play for. Fresno State has a lot to play for. Their season is still on track, just one tough loss away. And so they're still on track. I'm just looking forward to this game.
Yeah.
Two real solid teams. But I like where your head's at as far as that Fresno passing game versus UNLV's passing defense.
So let's talk about the other side of the balls here. UNLV's offense versus Fresno's defense. Yes, UNLV sits at 41st in terms of total offense, which is great. Again, I look at who they've played thus far. Not to take anything away from that offense. We've appreciated Maeva and everything that he's done coming in.
Player.
But I don't think they've really. Again, I'm setting Michigan's game aside. That's just a different game. But everybody else that they played, you look at Fresno's D here. They're pretty stout. They're allowing 330 yards per game. Pass defense is 52nd. Rush defense is 30th. Overall, 28th. Very solid D. I mean, when we think of Fresno, the first thing that comes to my mind is offense. But their defense has played really well this year. So again, I'm giving the edge to the Bulldogs defense over the UNLV's offense. So I'm giving both offense and defensive edge to Fresno. I hope it's close. I want it to be close. I want it to be a good game. I just don't see it happening for UNLV here.
I mean, it makes sense. What you're saying makes sense. Fresno's about a touchdown favorite.
Yes,
so
they are.
They're a little bit better on both sides of the ball. It makes sense. I do think UNLV has an opportunity there. They need Maeva if he can be that dynamic player to threaten the defense with his arm and his legs.
Sure.
And I think he is capable. But then, Fresno has an established defense, a veteran defense. Can they force him to make some mistakes? Because he's made some mistakes this year. He's thrown some interceptions.
Yeah.
He's a dynamic player. I think he has a great future at UNLV playing in the Mountain West. And I think he could be a difference maker one way or the other.
Yeah.
He could be that difference maker to help UNLV pull off an upset, or he could be if he makes those mistakes, those freshman mistakes against a good, solid Fresno defense. I think this one could get out of hand at some point.
Sure.
So I really have no expectations. I really think it could go either way. I could see Fresno State just dominating them, winning by 20 points.
Yeah.
Or I could see UNLV just hanging around, being a thorn in the side, and coming up with an upset, a close upset.
Well, and we talked about this being the potential winner of this goes, has a path to the Mountain West Championship game, because Fresno at this point, they don't play Air Force this season.
Right.
UNLV does not play Boise this season. Now, UNLV still has to play Wyoming.
Yes.
So the path after this game, even if UNLV wins this game,
right,
they still have a harder path going forward. If Fresno wins this game, they've already played Wyoming. They would have played a win versus UNLV. They don't have Air Force. We see what San Diego State's awful game looks like. Right. The path here for Fresno, and they've got to know that it's home at Fresno.
Yes.
Again, I know you're hedging 50-50. I am hedging Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Spread plus.
Yeah.
Spread plus on this.
Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised to see Fresno win by 20 points.
Yeah.
Multiple touchdowns. I think UNLV has an opportunity, but it is a smaller percentage. It's a smaller chance.
Yep. Let's go to the next game. The Pokes and the Boise State Broncos. This is at Boise State on that wonderful blue turf that isn't really new to anyone anymore, but kind of lost its I don't know, newness a decade or two ago or whenever the heck they did that. But let's look at these two teams. So of course you've got the Pokes. They're known for their defense. When you look at the numbers, they're not that telling. I mean, they're ranked 77th in the country, which you go, what are you talking about? Their defenses. But anybody that doesn't know the team and the game, they are absolutely a bend don't break. When you look at the touchdowns they give up versus the yardage, very big disparity there.
Also, the schedule they played. Having Texas on the schedule, and Texas was firing on all cylinders going into that game, they've played a really hard schedule.
Boise, on the other hand, 113th on defense. We've seen those struggles this year dramatically, especially in the pass game. I'm going to bring it up again, that wonderful Colorado State game. I'm not tagging that necessarily on the defense. I mean, a lot of luck happened in the end of that game. Ball luck there with Colorado State. And they've got, to me, the biggest wild card here is Genty in this game. I mean, Whaley is supposed to be back, is supposed to be back, which is also huge. That's another, to me, that's the Cowpokes wild card. Genty is the Broncos wild card. I see both of these guys probably in for a big game unless the Pokes defense can control Genty. We talked about that in the picks episode. Boise's offense here ranked 42nd. So they're able to move the ball. They're able to score. It's the defensive side for them that has been the struggle. I think that will continue to be the struggle. You look at their pass defense for Boise, 126th. That's why, again, in the picks episode, I said, I think here's Peasley again. 2 really strong games, one against Fresno. I said it before, I said it again. He won that game in the first half with his performance. Really strong again at Air Force. He's had a week off. The whole team has had a week off. They're coming off this bye. They should be as healthy as they've been in quite a while. They've had almost a murderer's row of schedule to start. You get banged up when you're playing games like we've been banged up when you play an Air Force team like that, yes. For Pete's sake. They needed that bye week. They got it. And I think the passing game, while the numbers don't look great, I think it's going to be more than enough against this Boise State defense that's pretty suspect in passing defenses. And I think Whaley's going to be in for a big one. He's just going to break one, at least one. I think Genty's going to break it. So, again, I'm going to wash those two guys. Let's wash Whaley and Genty. And who's going to win this game for him? Peasley. I'm back on him. I have to be. So that's where I'm at, Steve. What do you think?
I think it's nut cutting time in the Mountain West this week. The thing with this game, and I like your breakdown. I agree. Wyoming's defense is way better than the numbers show.
Yeah.
To me, they're top 1 or 2 defenses in the conference, for sure. Maybe Air Force's defense is better. I'm not sure, but maybe.
Yeah.
It's a good matchup. Boise has been a disappointment this year, both from a national perspective and just how they would do within the conference.
Yeah.
I mean, that loss to Colorado State, that's just unexplainable.
Can't happen.
Yeah, it's just crazy. So what my perspective on this game is, because we still have a really good race to see who can get into the championship game.
Right.
The loser of this game is probably eliminated.
Agreed.
Definitely with Boise.
Totally agree.
And unfortunately, probably for Wyoming too, because they've had such a hard schedule.
Yeah.
They have a loss to Air Force and a loss to Boise. Probably not. So the loser of this game is probably not getting in. So it's kind of put up or shut up time. Wyoming, I think I give them the edge. I think they're the better team. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think they're more physical. I think they have that defense that, like you said, it's a bend but don't break defense, but they can also attack you with their defense. Mm-hmm. They've won games this year with their defense and with their special teams. It's another weapon. Mm-hmm. There's no shame in that loss to Air Force. It was a close game. It's tough playing Air Force with the possessions they put in. The win that they had against Fresno was very impressive, and not only was their defense great, their offense was great, especially in the first half when they needed to. I just feel like Wyoming has the momentum. They're the better team this year. They have the better defense. I know it's at Boise, but I give the advantage to Wyoming, and I think this is the week we say Boise is going to be officially eliminated from conference contention this year.
I agree. Let's talk about the last game here, Air Force at Colorado State. What can't be said about Air Force already? I mean, any doubters should be hushed at this point. Defense looking amazing, number 2 overall, 2 in rush, 4 in pass, and their offense, 67th overall for Pete's sake. Colorado State, a decent offense. They're actually 51st. They can score their points. They do actually have a solid offensive game, but their defensive game is just atrocious, 128th overall. I still scratch my head at the Navy game. You made a really good point about, those games are usually close because they know how to play each other. They run the same types of offenses. And I'm with you. I'm throwing it out. I'm going back 2 weeks and before that and what that Air Force offense looked like and what they can do. And against this Colorado State team, 40-plus points here for Air Force. There's no reason they don't score 40-plus points here. So I don't have a lot to say about this game other than I think Air Force rolls big. The line was 12.5. This could be a 20-point spread for me in this game. And, I got nothing more to say other than I think we've got one top 2 team in the Mountain West versus a bottom 3rd team in the Mountain West.
The Air Force is the most complete team in the conference. When you look at their offense and defense, they are the most complete team in the conference, and they're one of the more complete teams in the country.
Sure.
And their ranking reflects that.
Yep.
Obviously, they're never going to be able to recruit like a Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, whatever. Yep. But their system, their coaching, the way these guys are playing, it's just absolutely amazing. They're a complete team. Colorado State is an up and down roller coaster nightmare. It's like they're like a fun house with a roller coaster at the same time. I have no idea what to expect from them. So who knows? They could have some wacky, crazy plays like they did against Boise to make it interesting. But the thing is Air Force's their style. They just wear you down. They take your soul. They run over you. They run around you. They knock the wind out of you and then run over you again. They just keep doing that. They're complete. There's no reason they shouldn't win this game by at least a couple touchdowns.
And that analogy is exactly what happened at Navy.
Yeah.
Their offense didn't perform. I shouldn't say they didn't perform. They didn't score as many points as I expected them to. But what you just said there is exactly what their defense did against that Navy offense. Yeah. I kind of almost felt bad sometimes for the Navy offense because Air Force just dominated them. Yeah. So I wanted to talk about these 3 teams these 3 games because in my opinion, I think you've got the top 3 teams coming out of this week in the Mountain West winning these games and a clear top 3. We've kind of mentioned that. I think Fresno wins. I think Wyoming wins. I think Air Force wins. And you got a 3-headed monster. How that's going to shake out to the end of the season, I don't really know.
Drag race to the end of the season.
But where you sit right now, I mean, Wyo's got that head-to-head over Fresno. So if they all come out of this, you got Air Force as 1. You got to have Wyo at 2 because of the straight-up win against Fresno, and you've got Fresno at 3. But all 3 of them have legit shots at being in the Mountain West Conference Championship.
Yeah, the field's about to go from 5 to 3.
I think that'd be my opinion. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. And either way, I just hope they're awesome games. Love watching me some Mountain West football. So, hey, with that, we thank you for tuning in. Let's enjoy these games this week. It is getting serious here in the Mountain West. We love it. We'll see you next time on the Big Mountain.
It's nut cutting time in the Mountain West.